All right, so let's talk about two movies that may go under people's radar, but trust me, by years end, people will be talking about these two shows. Actually, right now, people are just talking a lot about what will be the second film that we'll talk about in this part here. So I will kick things off with Rob Peace, and then from there we will talk about Rebel Ridge, right? Courtesy of Netflix, right? So Rob Peace. I found out about this show through, RogerEbert.com. I always go there, especially when I just want to hear like early reviews of movies. Or, I just want to know what, this like what people saying about new releases, right? So I stumbled upon this show, right? I was like, okay, what's this show about, right? And I was waiting for it to come out on VOD, right? Because well, this show here got a 3.5 out of 4 stars. So I was like, all right, cool, no problem. But like it finally came out on VOD, right? He was doing the film festival road earlier this year, and like it had a limited theatrical release in the States. So now
Right.
it's available online, so you can check it out, right? So it is based off of the biography, well, a book that was released back in 2014 called The Short and Tragic Life of Robert Peace, right?
Right.
So this was written by the college roommate of this guy by the name of Robert Peace, who is the main protagonist of the show, right? So, similar to the next show that we're going to talk about, this one also touches on a very flawed justice system, right? So, in this
Right.
case, we're introduced to Rob Peace. We see him as a kid back in the early 90s, I believe it was, well, late 80s, sorry, right? Into early 90s, right? As I mentioned, too, his dad is also the writer and director of this show. Let me see if I get the name. I know I haven't said this in a while, but you know what? Talk about Ricardo. Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Actually,
Did I get
yeah,
it correct?
correct. Yeah,
I
yeah,
get it
correct. Yeah.
correct. All right, cool. Yes, yes, yes. So he's the writer and director, and he plays his father, right?
Okay.
Rob's father in this, right? So yeah, he is accused of murdering these two women, and he is well arrested, right, incarcerated, right? So Rob now, well, sorry, he was too young at the time, right? But basically, as he grows up, and you learn this earlier on, he always had this affinity for science, right? He always wanted to learn about science, and as a teenager, he was studying at this private school for boys, basically, right, called St. Benedict's. Um, and eventually from there he got a chance. Well, he actually got to study at Yale University, right? So he's learning
Correct.
biology and all that kind of stuff, right? So early on they kind of set up and they do this beautifully, in my opinion, with a fire that takes place at their old home, right? I'm not going to say how the fire takes place, but it has to do with the driving force behind what Rob is doing throughout the show, right? So yeah, basically he believes that once he sort of understands, the biology of things, right? So like just symbolically, how that fire took place, right?
Right.
Um, and well, he kind of reflects that in his life. You know what I mean? Just the circumstances that he's a part of, because he's from New Jersey. It's not the most peaceful place in the world. You know what I mean? There's some elements there, but it's just how he has to maneuver through it, right? And a guy like his dad now being arrested for something that apparently he didn't do, right? Um, and how he could maneuver through it, and as he says earlier on, find, be able to control the chaos. That's the term, right?
Right.
Control chaos, right? I should also mention too that Rob's mother is played by Miguel Mary J. Blige. Yes, she's in it as well too, right? I like the fact that she doesn't, like she is there throughout the entirety of the film, even though this movie spans, a number of years, right? So yeah, as Rob, is like technically like a young man right now, right? Let me just say 18, 19 or thereabout, right? Yeah, he continues to struggle to get his dad out of jail because, he believes, but not so much his mom, but he believes that his dad is innocent, right? So
Correct.
he's working hard now to be able to afford a lawyer to try to organize something, so they can reduce his sentence, right? But it just doesn't seem to work, right? Because yeah, just the system as it is, they just kind of keeping this guy in jail, right?
Right.
And of course, with Rob having to deal with academics, right? And he actually has a girlfriend now called Naya, who is played, believe it or not, by Camila Cabello, right? Who is a
Right.
singer and like I know the name,
Yeah,
and
yeah. I
yeah,
have no issues. Yeah.
yeah, but like I could not put a face. I did not know it was her. So when I saw the name, it's like, oh shit, that's you. What? Okay, right.
Right.
But she was good, right? So yeah, long story short now, even though this guy is really, really smart and whatnot, and like the sky's the limit for him, right? He still feels held back now because he feels like he has to do right by his dad to get him out of jail. And the more doors that are slammed in his face, yeah, Rob kind of decided like, here's what, I had to do something to get my dad out, right? So similar to
Right.
like what his dad was doing back in the days. Yeah, he ended up slinging weed, right?
Okay.
But he kind of do it in a really scientific way. So he take out the cannabis, stuff, well, the oil from it, and basically
Yeah.
ensuring now, slight spoiler, that the high does not make the user lazy or worn down, right? They could
Yeah.
still do what they had to
He
do,
making
but they still high
the
though,
blue met. Like I say, he making the blue met, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because yes,
Right.
while I was watching this, I was thinking Breaking Bad. I was thinking
Right.
Snowfall, right? I was thinking
Right.
those two shows in particular, right? Because
Yes.
yeah, it's about it's about the necessity of it all now. I have to do this because I have to make money because I have to free my dad. That's what it is, right? And you see how things spiral out from there, right? And I'll stop there. So similar to the next show we're going to talk about, right? This has a fantastic performance by its lead. This guy is called G. Will, right? This is actually first time I've seen this guy, right? He's an actor, he's a rapper, he's a musician as well. He starred in a couple. He make appearances in a couple shows. He was in Tulsa King, which I haven't started on. That's with Sylvester Stallone. He was in the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Haven't
Okay.
watched that as yet. But this is like his first leading role, if I'm not mistaken, right? And I thought that he was fantastic in this performance. So he is quite believable, quite endearing though as his character, right? You just buy into like his optimism, right? As naive as it could be at times, right? Especially when it comes to his family, right? I love how it's set up early on that it's not just about his family, but it's about the community. Because later on in the show, he tries to do things the legal way and give back to the community and all that. But still is the slamming of the faces of the doors in his faces that kind of compel him to do the whole weed thing, right? But you do buy into everything that he's doing, right? And it feels logical. It feels like this is the part that this is like these are these decisions he have to make, right? And yeah, you know what I mean? Just on screen, he just has that presence. It totally works. He's very sympathetic, very endearing, as I said before. The side characters are great as well. Chiwetel, of course, how to play the father. You know what I mean? 'Cause he can't just write and direct. No offense, he had to be there on screen as well too. And I thought that he was great as Rob's father as well too. There's a gut punch of a moment between the two of them. Slight spoiler: it's the last conversation that they have in the film that really really got to me though. That almost brought the man tears out of me, Joe, just because of
Right.
how powerful that scene was, right? And in the context of what's going on, boy, woof, it make a lot of sense, right? um Mary is great as well too, even though you don't see much of her, but she's just always there to support Rob. And I do like that she have her own biases against,
Right.
the father and whatnot, and it makes sense too. You know what I mean? And it works, right? Camilla, even though like I don't know much about her music wise, yeah, I thought that she was good as Rob's girlfriend, right? I know this would be a great for some people. You don't really see much of her in the film, but when she is there, she does what she have to do, and that's the best compliment I could give her. Also, this guy Michael Kelly, right? Last time, if you remember him from shows like House of Cards, he was there as well. I was also confusing with Michael Shannon because they have like a kind of a similar face, but
Right.
Michael Kelly have a kind of slimmer face, kind of. Yeah, he was there as well too. He plays his reverend who works at the boys' school, right? And he brings this sense of morality. He actually injects that into Rob's life early on, and that kind of propels him to do the things that he does, right? One thing I also love about the film too is the cinematography, right? At first, it was a little on the nose, like when I saw it, but the more I saw it and how it's used, I was like, yeah, this actually work, right? The use of what I would call fiery colors, though. It's a lot of a lot of orange and reds are used, especially like interior scenes now, and it's meant to reflect the earlier scene with the fire, right? So since the fire, well, the house that caught fire was kind of like the driving force. Well, one of the big motivations behind what Rob does is a lot of scenes involving just a lot of warm lighting, right? A lot of orange light being used, right? And yeah, it's symbolic, but it works in terms of what the story is telling, right? And as far as the story goes, it is based on a true story, right? So I know that some people will come out of it like, yes, I know where the story is gonna go. I've been there, seen that, kid tries to make it out of the hood or tries to do right by the family, but the academics not working and the legal system bringing them down, so you have to sell drugs and you kind of know how things gonna play out from there, right? But because well, one, it's a true story, so it's not like it's some kind of fabricated precious-esque kind of story, right?
Right.
Then also too, they don't hammer you down with the black struggle. Like it's there, but it doesn't hammer you down with it. There's actually like a surprising amount of optimism to the show, right? Especially when it comes to Rob and there's the moves that he makes, right? Whether it's in school or outside of the whole drug thing that he's doing, right? He actually does some really cool legal stuff, like um legit stuff, right?
Yeah.
To kind of help out the community, right? So he's not just a drug dealer just because he actually wants to do right by his family and his community, but it's just, yeah, how to get that money, you know what I mean? And then because of where the story is set, yeah, they talk about the whole 2008. I know that whole issue. Well, the whole I forgot the term what it is. The whole financial
Yeah.
not
The housing
drought.
crisis.
Yeah, the
The
housing
housing crisis.
crisis.
Oh, it's all right. So he's in America because
Yeah,
okay,
it is. Yeah. So
okay.
yeah,
Because
so
when I saw Chiwetel's name. I was like, oh shit. I thought it was
oh,
British
okay. No.
somewhere.
It's America. Like I said, it's New Jersey, right?
Right,
Yes.
right. So, okay, yeah, you mentioned
Yeah.
that. Sorry about that. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So when
that's
they touch on that, it's like, well, yeah, I don't blame you. Slight spoiler for going back to selling weed. Like,
right.
sorry, but I understand where you're coming from, right? So yes, again, I know some people might look at this and be like, oh, cliche this, cliche that, blah blah blah. But to be fair, and in the show's credit, it's a true story, right? So deal with it, right? And it's a good thing just to wrap things up that I went to this blind, right? I just knew the rating that this critic gave it. And
Right.
I just saw, G Will's piece. That's all I knew, right? But I didn't know about everything else. And I was glad that I went in blind though, because yeah, I came out of it seeing a really, really well made, and just well written, I must say, and superbly acted urban drama. You know what I mean? It,
Right.
it totally works, right? And for those who will go into this expecting the cliches, I love that you don't get much of them in it. Like they're there, but it's not all about those. It's not driven by those. It really tells a very powerful and endearing story about this guy who just use his talent and just use what he had now, and sort of framed it in the environment again, with science now, mean using his environment, kind of try to figure things out and control the chaos, but to see how that works and how that doesn't work, right? And yeah, for me, this totally works, right? But above all that, though, out of this, I got a really great performance by J. Will. And I just really want to see this guy, do more work, man. 'Cause, yeah, he just knocked out the park with this one, right? So yeah, surprise, surprise. This is I kind of love this film. This is one of the
Nice.
best films I've seen so far this year, right? So for me, rating wise, I'm gonna give this a strong 4 to 5. I really dug this, right? Um, it's not on Netflix right now, compared to the next film I'm going to talk about. But I do hope that it shows up in some streaming platform somewhere. I see that it was released through Paramount. It's through oh
Okay.
gosh, Republic Pictures, which Paramount owns. So I don't know if that means that it will show up on Paramount Plus. Maybe it will, but
Right.
if you could find it online legally, so to speak, yeah, check it out, right? But I know this um might be forgotten or might be overlooked, I should say, by
Right.
years end, especially with the next film we're going to talk about. But I will say, just like that film, this features a superb performance from a guy that, yeah, I just want to see him do more in the near future, man. I think that he was
Right.
great in this, right? So yeah, I can't recommend this show enough, right? And the same thing I have to say about Rebel Ridge. But
Right.
there's a
I,
few
which I
particular
really like.
reasons why this show worked for me, right? One is obvious and is the thing that everybody will talk about with the show, but we'll get to that. I will get to that in my review, right? And I know you probably have the same thing. You'll probably say the same thing, right? But yeah, Ricardo, take it away. What was Rebel Ridge about?
Sure. Is this guy who riding his bike one day, and he want to ride his bike just to get to the courthouse to pay bail for his cousin, and he gets hit and run over, by the police car, and you're not sure, why, but according to them, he was being chased around that. So yeah, we boy Terry Richmond, uh, being chased by the cops, and they come up with a bullshit charge, and then they basically take the money, which is I think what it was $26,000 or $36,000, uh,
Yeah, it
from
was
him.
36. It was 36. It was
Yeah,
36.
36,000, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
from him, and basically we call civil asset forfeiture. This is a very popular concept amongst a lot of various groups in the United States because it's basically one of the most bullshit kind of things. Effectively, is legal theft by the police. Just take your shit and then use it. But what you learn, him trying to like suss out and get back his money and sort of the situation. What you learn is that is a little bit of a rabbit hole going deeper than that, with involving his cousin and involving the police and involving a couple lawyers, and basically just this entire network within this town, and they basically uncover like a type of conspiracy uh, with it. And yeah, that's it. It's just shenanigans ensue. It's very Batman, but also kind of uh, Rambo, a little bit of Rambo in it, a little bit of that, and also a little bit you get a little bit of was our showboy that Tom Cruise, but then that fella starring is our TV show the other day.
Not
Oh
Jack
gosh,
Ryan. No.
Jack Ryan. No, not Jack Ryan.
No, no, no. I know you're talking about
Shit.
Jack Reacher.
Jack Reacher, thank you.
Yeah.
Little Jack Reacher, little thing, and all of these things come together in a really solid, but grounded and plausible script, in my opinion. Well, at least reasonably grounded and plausible. There are a couple of things that was a bit of a stretch, but it's for the sake of a story. And most of this works. Mostly, I was hyped for this because of the director, right? This
Yes,
dude
yes.
did,
I didn't know it was Jeremy Solner
yeah,
behind the scene.
right. And he did a
Yeah.
movie.
Well, it
One
was
of my
Paul
movies.
Nier. Sorry if I got the name wrong. Forgive me, right? But yeah,
Yeah,
even though I never saw Blue Ruin, shame
right.
on
That's
me.
the movie I like a lot.
I saw Green Room. I really
Right, and
dug
then right,
Green
he
Room.
did Green Room. I didn't see the movie after Green Room, but I saw,
That
Green
was
Room.
Holy Dark. No, no, no. Holy
Yeah,
Dark is coming out. Just actually, Holy Dark is coming very soon.
right.
But his debut was Murder Party. I've never seen
I
that.
never saw that. I
Yeah.
never saw it, but I saw Blue Ruin. I was like, oh, is it gonna be like Blue Ruin? And he's like, yeah, it have a a little bit of Blue Ruin in this.
Okay. Okay.
Because
Okay. Well, I didn't know.
right, and that's the thing. It's just why was the big sell about it? Just the sheer realism, right? It's the
Yes.
groundedness of it.
Yes.
Almost everything in this, virtually everything, almost everything in this is really realistic. The plot I find is plausible. The violence itself, the action and the violence is also reasonably plausible. It escalates in interesting ways. Nothing feels too much of a stretch. It had one kind of a plot thing that felt like a little bit of a stretch without a big problem for me. But yeah, I dug the hell out of this. And as I mentioned, mostly because of the star, Aaron Pierre. He's great.
Yes. Yes.
He's great in this. It works because he just, this remind me of, it remind me of a TikTok where I really apologize because I forget the guy's name, but he's just be calm in the face of like some political or something that controversial, and then all of the people off screen who he argued against, the hypothetical people he argued against, it's usually like a right winger kind of thing. They just be screaming at the top of the lungs and freaking out, and they have like this one little like if I say this, you'll know who it is, so somebody will look it up for me. But it's our cactus. The cactus is freaked out every time they scream, and it'll be some plotting, something with politics or something like that. But it's just like that. He just dead calm, being as calm as he can, and then other people just freaking out in and around him. And but to find out why and the how is great. Like especially when this guy oh gosh.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh
Don Johnson. Well, it's like what?
no, not Johnson, but it's this other guy, oh gosh, Zephram Cochrane. Oh gosh, I forget the actor name.
Oh, not James Cromwell.
James Cromwell, thank you.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like you with this too.
Right,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
His reveal and what he does is so dark and dread. Like, wait, boy, the real
Boy.
dread, boy. Like that. All I need to do is something involving some pills. That's all I need to do. And I'm
Yes.
like,
Yes.
fucking hell, dude. This man real man, dude. Like this whole tongue, real dread, dude. But
Yeah.
most of this really works. Like I just dug the hell out of this. It has a lot of cool moments. Like when there's a moment the Wi-Fi is reset, and they go on
Mm-hmm.
Wikipedia. And they go on
Yes.
Wikipedia.
I was like,
Things all I need to
oh,
know.
he
Like,
does this.
that's fun. Like,
Oh,
it's
okay.
hard though. It's real hard. It's a good bit. I mean, you understand why it's called Rebel Ridge, and there's a whole history to that. Like, I'm sure when somebody on TikTok or something like will dig up the actual history of Rebel Ridge and what's going on there, and like why history kind of repeated itself and so on and so forth. Um, it's a really great thriller. Like, it works as a thriller. it's a real it's a what do you call it a pot boiler, total pot boiler. Like
Mm-hmm.
it have
Mm-hmm.
little corny parts and it's on the news, but it totally works as a modern like take on a just a nice revenge story kind of, but just justice system story kind of, and then it comes together in terms of like the corruption when they find out why the who doing what they're doing and involved with the corruption, involved with the town, why it happened, what was the impetus. It's like okay, that's really interesting and make a lot of sense. Like 'cause that shit happening a lot, and it make it going to become like a thing because this is like a big talking point. And when we get into spoilers, we'll talk about that later. Because there's an ancillary little issue that has to sort out, I think, in the United States, and because the United States never sorted it out, they can never sort out the race issues. In my humble opinion, this is my amateur bullshit on the internet opinion, right? But yeah, I just had a lot of fun with this, mostly because the realistic action, the realistic plot line, for the most part, even though it's a kind of slightly kind of corny pot boiler, it really works and comes together. And again, mostly because of the director, he just puts this together so well. Great side characters, comes together great. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. And yeah, I can see why it's so popular on Netflix. It works. Most of it is good.
Yeah, yeah, it is, right? So folks listening, I don't think we will get spoilery with this though. Like we may mention one or two things though, but nah, for me, I think you guys should go in as blind as possible, right?
Yeah.
But just to get the all right, so here's the thing with me, right? So when I first saw it, this was like 2 days ago, right? Um at first I came out of it slightly disappointed. Just mainly
Right.
because I felt that we didn't get enough action, right? But I'll explain that, right? Especially in the last moments. Like there is an action sequence, but it didn't play out the way how I had envisioned it, right? So
Right.
when I first saw the trailer for this, my mind instantly thought First Blood, right? So when I
Right.
went into
Yeah.
this now,
Right.
I was thinking, okay, we're gonna get like a contemporary First Blood story, but it's like at first I think it is gonna be racially driven, because even right down to how
And it kind
Terry
of is.
ends
Yeah.
up like, yeah, well, how the
Yeah. And
cops
it kind of
approach
is. Right.
Terry at first is racially driven, right? That's what it is, right? But then goes deeper into the justice system, and yeah, just how these cops manipulated and twisted around to make it work in their favor. Without spoiling anything, it's the whole, oh, you shot this guy by accident. Here's what, you shoot me, I get, oh sorry, you take his gun, you shoot me directly in the shoulder. So
Yeah. Yeah. Real
when the
bullshit.
other cops come in or when I go to court, I could say, oh,
Yeah.
homie that I killed by accident, but of course I'm not gonna tell you that I did it, of course, 'cause I don't want to get
Right.
arrested. Yeah, he shot me, so we shot back. That's
Right.
how they move. That is
Yeah.
exactly how they move, right?
No,
But
they're
they
real
use
good.
it with a bunch of like legal
Well, the
chicanery shit, you know?
ending, the ending is where it get kind of interesting because like the other cops didn't really know what's going on now. Like it's like, oh shit,
Oh
like
yeah, yeah. Well, the cops
and then
outside that district, I think it was.
right,
Yeah,
and
that
yeah, outside the
surprised me.
town.
Mhm.
But what
Yeah.
happened there? What happened there is like, oh shit, that real bad though, because they could have totally like get away with it now. And again, we had to talk about all of that with respect to the history of the United States. And there, a thing that they call a strength is my opinion is just really a pathology. Which is the whole isolated tongue concept and just figuring out a way to survive on their own bullshit. Like sorry to say it, now you had to kind of line up with the government, unfortunately. And yeah, I found out the other day, and we'll do. I don't think this necessarily direct, but it's relative. I think it's totally relative, which is just the idea of the sundown town. Like it still have sundown towns in America. Like after how much time? So like all of that, just the whole a tongue that's not to be corrupt and insular and figuring it out, and you learn why and how. When James Cameron character explain everything, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense, kind of, and it's like, all right, that kind of work. But yeah, it's smart stuff. Like it's surprisingly smart stuff. It's genuinely dark and interesting, but it's good stuff at the same time. And it's like, all right, I really appreciate what it was going for here, and it works.
Yeah. Yes, yes, same here too. But yeah, you know what I mean? Outside of just me not getting the action goods that I expected, right? The
No, yeah,
more I
yeah, yeah,
thought about it, the more I realized, well, it actually is meant to be that way, right? So as you said, just the emphasis on realism, I do really admire that, right? I will admit though, it is a very convoluted web that Jeremy spins with his story here, but
yeah.
it feels realistic, it feels plausible, it feels exactly like, oh, if we really have to sweep certain things under the rug, this is what we have to do. This is how we go about it, right?
Right.
I love the fact that it doesn't just stick with this particular police station or police chief, right, who is played excellently by Don Johnson. It goes deeper than that, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a stretch, yes, but it feels plausible, right? Um, and just going back to the action, yeah, that's why the action for the most part feels realistic, right? So it's not like John Rambo bringing in like a whole bunch of people following him into the forest and he just taking
Well,
them
that's the
down
thing.
one by
In the
one.
first
It's not
Rambo,
that type
right?
of show. It's
Yeah,
different, you know?
yeah, that's the thing. In the first Rambo, it was more like the first Rambo, where it's like, oh, it's just the plausibility of this action sequence and the cops kind of just being weird assholes about it, especially
Yeah.
Don Johnson. Yeah, he's a total asshole in this.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Ooh, hoo,
he had me
hoo,
cracking
boy.
up at parts too.
Yeah.
He just
Like just when you thought he was bad in Django Unchained, but what I see here
right,
is like, oh
right.
boy, oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just
Right.
real trash. But they make it work. Like it
Yeah.
makes sense like why he is the way he is. He particularly bad. But it's just all of these people is such a problem going forward. And it works. It,
Yeah.
like, a lot of it just works to me.
But
It comes together well, solid script. I see why people enjoy it because it does have the justice porn aspect of it, but because it's so realistic, it works. So it's not as
yeah.
ridiculous as say something like oh gosh, what do you call it, Equalizer or something like that.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, not like that. It just oh right, we doing this thing and but because it's so grounded and unworkable, that's why it sell itself as it was. So in my humble opinion, and I think it mostly works for the most part.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying to think of
I took it works as well. Well, that's just a few things for you before I get to Rita, right?
yeah,
So, yes, the praise is rightfully deserved, and I think it is a great film. Um, it's not perfect in my eyes, but that don't mean that I did not enjoy the hell out of it, right? And I feel like if I just watch it a few more times, I'll enjoy it a lot more. Just
yeah,
mainly because of the writing in this. I think the writing is the biggest strength of the show. Just how things are. Just the one thing that really surprised me though is how the show takes its time to let the story breathe, right? Because
yeah,
and this is to me the key of why the show works, right? How it plays with conventions, how it subverts your expectations, right? So for me going in, I was expecting First Blood, like I was expecting some big shootout to take place after the first act, but no, that's not what we get. We just pretty much get this mystery, this potboiler sort of thing, right? Um,
yeah,
and just unraveling this web. That's all it keeps doing, right? And yeah, when it all comes out, you realize, yeah, just how corrupted this town is, right? I also love how it subverts what we expect from the lead, right?
yeah.
And by the way, just to touch on this, right? Yeah, Aaron Pierdo. I didn't know that he was in the Underground Railroad, which was my favorite
Right,
TV
right,
show
right,
of
right, right.
2021.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
forget about that.
remember.
Yeah, he is in
Yeah, I
that.
don't remember
Yes,
him
yes.
from that show. I never got around to watching Krypton. He was a big deal in that show.
What was he in Krypton?
He played
I
Dev
try to
M.
remember.
I read it off here, Wikipedia. Dev
He's
M.
what?
Dev M.
Okay, yeah.
DEVM.
I think he was. I think he probably wasn't. Yeah, I think he was
Okay.
in Krypton. Yeah, but he probably. I remember. God, I only remember the guy who played Zod. So that's it.
Okay.
All right, no problem.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so this technically feels like my first time seeing Aaron. But yeah, he is a star true and true though. I mean, he had
Yeah,
the look down. I mean, with the green eyes he have is a
yeah,
automatic sell right there.
yeah, yeah.
Because just how intimidating he looks. And I hear
Mm.
him behind the scenes some scuttlebutt that people so love his performance that they think that he should play Green Lantern. Like if they were to
Yeah,
do like
yeah, why not?
another, like if DC Studios decide to make take another
Well,
crack at
they
Green Lantern.
they didn't cast John Stewart yet, so yeah, maybe why not? Uh,
Okay, yeah, yeah. I mean,
whatever.
if they do
I
so, cool. But
heard.
I just hope that I know his career will blow up after this movie, once this
Yeah,
movie drops. Yeah.
yeah. I heard that it was supposed to be Daniel Kaluuya in this role. Heard that. Um,
Okay, and I was reading up here too that John Boyega was actually
John
cast.
Boyega.
Yeah, John Boyega was actually cast to
John
play him.
Boyega.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay, right. I
I
confused that. Sorry about
and
that.
it's not to say that John wouldn't kill it, because yeah, I mean
Right.
he could do dramatic roles, right? But
Yeah.
it's all about Aaron New and this how he presents himself, right? And this is another thing I love, right? How it subverts what you think about the protagonist. Because
Right.
you're thinking John Rambo, but you're also thinking like Liam Neeson's character in Taken, right? The
Right.
guy who could talk to you and tell you, look, I could do this, and you don't want to put look, I come into you reasonable, but if you
Yeah.
keep pushing, man, you keep slamming doors in my faces, I will bust through that door and I will kill you, right? But like that, he kind of says that he'll bust through the door, but he say he's not gonna kill you. It's just I gonna get what it is I want, right?
Right.
I love that they give him just enough characterization for you to understand why he would go about it, but they never really say that. He will go as far, he will do whatever it is he had to do to get right. But I like that he shouldn't have to stop to tell you, oh well, this is why he's inclined
Oh,
to
we
kill
know
cops,
enough.
blah blah blah.
Yeah,
It's
we
like,
know
oh,
enough.
like
Right.
you know enough, right? So you
They,
understand the point. Look,
we
Like
literally
you
read
can't
our
stop this guy.
Wikipedia.
You can't stop this guy at this point.
Yeah,
He's gonna do what he has to do. You don't need to explain, well, in the war and the this. No, no, that's not what we're going for, right? And yeah, I think that that does me that works for him, right? Well, with this, right? But for me, why I really dug this too is that it feels like a contemporary take on. It feels like a throwback now to 70s revenge films. So I was picking
right,
up a little bit of Death Wish, right? Like like a guy who seems normal, but the world around him, the environment around him pushes him. So he's like, yeah, I can grab a gun and start taking care of business. I don't care.
right,
They push me. It's like that. Same thing with First Blood. You push me, I push back. But I have a military background, just like Terry
right.
does. I'm gonna
But
do that, right?
the character, we literally read him on Wikipedia. So
Yes,
it's like,
and
I
that,
can
that that Wikipedia scene, which you're not gonna spoil,
yeah,
was brilliant. Though I love that. I love that. Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
Also his skill sets are sort of subverted too because he's not the badass that he's not like the gun toting badass, but he could still throw down. Like I like the fact
right,
that he knows martial arts and he will quicker use that than grab a gun. That's not to say he don't grab a gun, but he'll quicker use his fists and feet. Right? So it's
right.
like
And they keep everything non-violent, or at least what they call what is low lethality.
yeah.
They keep it.
Cause slight spoiler, I see you do a little bit Arnold in T2, you know what I mean? Grab a grenade
Right,
launcher, you know what I mean? With smoke grenade, sorry, you do that thing. I was like, all right, I like that, right? Lastly, as far as the throwback vibe goes, also picked up on like some 90s, early 2000s thrillers, right?
right,
Especially stuff that took real life situations and made them into thrillers, right? So whether it's stuff like, I don't know, Pelican Brief or
right,
conspiracy
right, right,
theory,
right, right.
like stuff that took things that could really happen, but
Yeah,
heightened it
there's
in
a little
such
bit
a
of
way that you
because
feel scared now.
it have a right. That was Denzel and was she named Julia and
Yeah, Julia Roberts.
Julia
Yeah,
Roberts. Right, right,
that was
right. So
Pelican Brief. That was
yeah,
Pelican Brief.
the
Yeah.
whole interracial aspect of it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Right,
But as I was saying, this just basically taking stuff that seems implausible, but making it grounded in reality enough you could be like, yeah, that could actually happen. And that was like a
right.
lot of 90s thrillers, right? Like In the Line of Fire, stuff like that. We're not talking about Air Force One where automatically some
No,
terrorists
no,
could
no.
go and no, not like that. We're talking about stuff that feel
But
real
even
and they
something
make it
like
feel real.
even something like Enemy of the State, like just
Uh-huh.
that same, right, the whole paranoia, the everything, everybody watching here is a whole network of these fellas really like doing a good job of just keeping that shit in check, and
Yeah,
that how the system working, the lawyer
yeah.
is in law and everybody is a problem.
Right. And oddly enough, I was also thinking for some odd reason of law abiding citizen in the sense that,
Right, I
we
remember that.
really
Yeah,
want to show just even though that show went over the top, but that's fine. I still enjoy that show, right? But
yeah,
the whole idea that, the law is corrupt and there's people who could twist and contort the law to their will, right? That kind of
correct.
vibe I was picking up from it as well too, right? So again, I just love the attention put into grounding the story in realism, right? Making it feel real in terms of just the cover ups and all these things. It's a lot to take in, yes, I would admit that, right? But it still works, right? I love how they just kept things going, kept things engaging and whatnot. Aaron really steals every scene he's in, just with his mannerisms and whatnot, and just the way how he approaches things makes a lot of sense. I thought that the side characters were great as well. Even Anna Sophia Robb, who plays Summer McBride. I didn't expect her to be a big deal in the film, but it works, and how they work her into the story was great, right? Even like just how realistic, quote unquote, the action scenes work.
Yeah,
Worked for me, right? But again, because I went in with the first blood mentality, just to make a long story short, I was expecting more action out of it, right? Just when I saw it first hand, right? But then, the more I thought about it, I was like, no, it kind of don't need to be this way because it's like First Blood. It's harkening back to that and other action and thrillers of that similar genre vibe. But that's not what they're going for. It's going for a more contemporary vibe, right? And last thing too, I love that it fits within this post Black Lives Matter kind of vibe though, but
right,
it does
right,
not hammer the racism subtext of it. Like it's there, right? Like within the first 2 minutes of this movie, they kind of tell you, yep, them white cops up to no good. Especially
right,
this guy boy, Evan Marston, played by David
right.
Denman. Plus, he is like the
Yeah,
grimiest cop
that's
I
fun.
ever seen in my life,
Yeah,
Trey.
for real.
There's a moment where he just yells gun. And when I say I was like, Huss, boy, use a problem, Dre. use a problem horse. So
Yeah,
I
really.
want to get rid of him, so to speak, in that way. But dog, that Marston character, boy, woof, he's a problem. Anyway, but yeah, but I like that it was not like it could have it could have leaned towards that. Like let me just say, if this came out a couple of years earlier, like say 2021, it could have been a BLM story, right? But I like that it's there, like it's in the atmosphere, so to speak, right? Even with conversation scenes with Terry and the cops, especially with Terry and Chief Sandy, who's played by Don Johnson, right? But it's not just about that. Like it could have simply been, "Oh, you black, so we don't like you," right? But because Terry has his own mission with the money and bailing out his cousin, and then now with the cops having to survive, I mean, financially, that's always without spoiling anything. I like
Yeah.
that there's extra layers to it, right? So yes, the racism is there, but I like that
Right.
it's not
Right.
about that, right? So to speak, right? So yeah, the popularity and praise around this film is rightfully deserved though. And I would say, yeah, I mean, as far as a Netflix release though, this is kind of like one of the best that we've seen in a long while, right? But as far as an action thriller though, this totally works for me. Again, it just feels like a throwback to just old school, you know, back against the wall at a strike back kind of thrillers. You know what I mean? Well, action films, but also, oh, in the real world, something like this could play out, right? As implausible as it could be, right? Just that grounded realism thriller kind of vibe. I was getting that from this movie, right? And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really Jeremy Saulnier who really holds things together, though. Just directing and acting wise, he did a great job here. And of course, just a magnificent performance, I would say, from Aaron Pierre. The man just have the look, the mannerisms. Man even have the one-liners down as well too, right? Just a great performance from him in that. And I can't wait to see what next he does, right? Whether it's, I don't know, Green Lantern or whatever whatever superhero film he decides to do, right, in the near future. So yeah, for me, similar to Rob, to Rob Peace, I'm also gonna give this a strong 4 out of 5, man. This is
Nice.
one of the year's best films for sure. Yeah, don't skip on this one. This is really solid
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
But I
For me,
will
it's solid.
say, don't go into this expecting tons of action. It's not that type of show. It may look like that type of show, but it's not that type of show. And I'm glad that it's not that show. So that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's a solid 8. Just a solid 8. It just well executed ideas. Comes together really well. Solid script. Don't overthink it. And yeah, it mostly just works. Just a ton of fun with this. As it is. Yeah. So yeah, a solid 8 for me.